Welcome to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. Each week, we bring you insight, analysis, interviews, and our predictions for the week's matchups around the Northwest Georgia area. Here are your hosts.
Good afternoon, WLA crew. We are glad to have you with us here on this edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, where we talk high school football here in our region, and we're going to pick the games. We got to start with last week, though. Matt, Grayson, how are you?
Doing okay. How are you today, sir?
Just fantastic.
Grayson?
I still haven't recovered from Saturday, unfortunately.
What happened Saturday, man? Could you tell us what went down? I don't know if I remember what he's talking about.
Is that Big Al sitting over there?
Oh, was there a ball game over there in
is.
Tuscaloosa?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. You went. How was that?
The first half, not so much. There was a lot of roll tide roll there in the first half. I don't know if I should say this on the air, but they were definitely making us in the first half.
Rule of thumb here. If you don't think you should say it on the air, we're just going to go ahead and say don't. All right.
But we did come back, and then Ryan Williams, he's literally barely.
He's 17, right?
He's barely older than me.
Did you hear that? He's
Yes.
a 17-year-old kid. I heard that somewhere.
Probably heard it on ESPN. They done said it about 10,000 times by now.
Right. That's right.
But yeah, it was rough, but I got to witness the game of the century, so definitely a great environment. Even I sang Dixieland Delights.
Ian, I got a question for you, man.
Yeah.
How many games of the century have there been?
Oh, I mean, that depends on who you're talking to. There have been some great ones. That was an
It was
all-time
definitely-
classic.
it was a classic, no doubt
classic.
about it.
I don't know if I'll say game of the century, but a great effort from Georgia. Tale of two halves. Your dogs fought valiantly to get back in that game. It was fun to watch, especially when you don't really have a dog in the fight. When you're just sitting back there and watching the game. I did pick Alabama in our picks, so there was that side of me, but I didn't have a rooting interest really.
We'll get our get back.
You in the new system, you should have your opportunity. You've just boldly predicted to me before we went on the air that Georgia's going to boat race Texas. In
I didn't
Austin.
say boat race.
I
said no.
You said you were going to whip them.
Hey,
Boat race, whipping. Yeah, we'll see.
horns
We'll
down.
see.
All righty. Well, again, this is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Glad you had a good time, and I'm somewhat sorry that you didn't get the outcome that you were looking for in that one because, as Ian mentioned, I did pick Georgia to win that football game. And, boy, in that first half, I thought, well, I mean, I wouldn't have thought it was a boneheaded pick. And the next thing you know, they come storming back, score 28 unanswered, take the lead, and I thought, boy, this is going to be just awesome to reflect on this pick. And then, boom, it was gone. But
Yeah.
it was a fun game to watch, and I was grateful that they did come back and make it interesting because all the hype and everything that build up to the game, it didn't appear that it was going to live up to the expectations as far as an entertaining game and one of the best games of the year until it did.
Right.
So it was fun. Well, with that said, let's get over to the results from our high school picks last week, and we will let you know that we all missed 3 games that we all picked the same, and that would be Gordon Lee over Chattooga, Lafayette Christian over Unity, and then Temple over Bremen. We all missed those 3. And then Ian missed an additional one, so he missed 4 last week. Matt and Grayson, we missed 3. But you missed the Manchester over Tryon.
By a long shot.
Yeah, I mean, they ran into a buzzsaw in that game, it appears. Yeah. But anyway, so that's how it shakes out. So overall, I'm in the lead 49-12. Narrow lead, though. Grayson is in the middle there with a 48-13 overall record. And Ian, let's it's not yours yet, but it is sitting in the room now.
It is. I'm trying hard. I'm going to keep swinging.
Yes, and we're going to have some differences today. I have a feeling, so some opportunity for you to climb back.
It's a little too heavy to hang at the top of the tree. Otherwise, I think I would do that. I don't know. Maybe I can find a way.
Let's pass that over so we can have the reveal for people that are new to the show and have never seen this before. But this is called the Rick Award, and basically what it is the person that loses the picks gets the award. And you can see it on the video for people that will just be listening to the radio edition. We'll give you a description here. And the best way to describe this is it is the south end of a northbound horse. And that's all that it is. Yeah. So there you go.
Right. Well, at the moment, I'm how many games in last place?
I'm in the
3,
lead,
4?
49-12. You are 45-16. So
Wow.
you're
Four solid
game
games. Yeah.
You might want to have to take some Hail Marys this time around.
Hey, we got a half season left, so
still plenty of time to come back. We've probably seen bigger comebacks in the past before. So anyway, with that said, that's where we are now on our picks. I do want to mention this before we move along and mention the games that we're going to be picking today. But the Georgia High School Association put out some information this week that I felt like we needed to cover in case you haven't heard this yet. But basically, because of the severe damage that took place in a lot of areas of the state, they decided to change the original football playoff schedule by adding a week to the regular season because a lot of teams didn't get to play last week. And so, therefore, they've added a week to the regular season. That way they can kind of catch up and complete their regular season schedules. And originally going into this year, they were going to do something different by having a bye week in the playoffs, essentially, for that round that would be around Thanksgiving. I guess that'd be what the quarterfinals. And so this year, they've decided to walk that back a little bit because of what's happened with all the storms and everything like that. So the original last Friday of the regular season was to be November the 1st, but now it's been back to November the 8th, which means that the first round of the playoffs, instead of being that weekend, is now going to be the weekend of November the 15th, and some games will be on the 16th. And then you'll just play right through. You will not have that break in Thanksgiving week. So just thought we'd pass that along for those of you that may not have heard that this week. Any comments on that before we move along?
I mean, I think they're making good use of what would have been an additional bye week. So that's, now we've got to let these teams get their opportunity to play. They work hard.
It's been an unusual year in that respect. Yeah. And obviously the biggest part of that was last week and the hurricane. And we certainly are thinking about the people that are in the areas that were affected the most in that situation. We kind of dodged a bullet here in Northwest Georgia, but other parts of the state weren't so lucky. And I have different sets of family members that live in the North Carolina area. Some of them live in Burnsville, and then the others that I'm referencing live in Hendersonville. And both of those areas got hit really hard, both around the Asheville area. So obviously we're thinking about those folks as they try to recover and get life back to normal. It's going to take a lot of time in some of those areas.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the images and footage of that, it's hard to believe.
It truly is. Yeah. So here's a look at the games that we're going to be looking at this week, folks. We're going to start in GAPPS AA Region 1 9-man football, talk about the Pinecrest Academy. I always say that word wrong. You don't have to help me with that.
Paladins.
I always want to say it differently, and I'm not going to say it the wrong way so I don't get that stuck in my head. But the Paladins. All right, they're going to be playing the Unity Christian School Lions. That'll be out at Coosa. In 6A D1 today, we'll talk about the Model Blue Devils going to Haralson County. Bremen Blue Devils are at Pepperell taking on the Dragons. In 7A D2, you've got the Mount Zion Eagles at Tryon. And 7-4A, the Cartersville Canes at Cass Colonels. Also, Cedartown Bulldogs at Hiram Hornets. Then we'll move into 5A and talk about the Rome Wolves trip to Villa Rica to take on the Wildcats. We've got several games we're going to talk about in 7A D1 today. That'll be the Chattooga Indians at Fannin County Rebels. Also, you'll have Christian Heritage at Gordon Central. And then finally, tell us about our game of the week this week, Ian.
Yeah, a fun one here, Floyd County, cross-county rivalry as Coosa will travel over to Armuchee High School to take on the Indians. So Eagles and Indians locking horns, and as we have all season, when we can get them to give us a call, we're going to talk with the head coaches of both teams on our featured games. So Geoff Cannon of Coosa is going to call us in, and Eric Belew. And they'll give their thoughts on this matchup and how their seasons have gone so far. So excited about a big game here in Floyd County on Friday night.
Let's take a break, and then we'll come back and jump in and pick a bunch of games. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Thanks for being here, everybody. We're going to start picking them coming up after this break.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
Welcome back in, everybody. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, our Week 8 edition of the program, and we'll go ahead and jump in and start picking some games. Let's start in GAPPS, Georgia Association of Private and Parochial Schools, AA Region 1, 9-man football. It's going to be the Pinecrest Academy. Help me there.
Paladins.
I can't say that word.
Paladins
against the Unity Christian School Lions. Ian, where do we start with this one?
Yeah, this is a tough one. The Paladins are 5-0. They just beat a few weeks ago the Lafayette Christian School pretty soundly. That team beat Unity last week. The start-stop aspect of the Lions season is something I have to take in effect here. Usually I'd go with the home team and I'd bet on the Lions, but I'm going to go with the 5-0 Paladins to win this one.
All right, we'll go across the table here and see what Grayson has to say about this game.
Yeah, Unity, obviously, they played this game a little late. They played this Saturday, and we mentioned the weather was, just all over the place. And this has kind of been familiar for Unity, being able to play a lot of these games late, and you said this really factors into it. And one of the things I noticed is it's really unfair to put a team down a rabbit hole where you say this team that they played got beat by another team by this much, and we saw this situation earlier in the season with Calhoun and Cambridge whenever Calhoun played Creekview, I believe. But, either way, even though it's unfair the way I look at it, is there some facts you just can't ignore. So I'm going to have to go with Pinecrest in this one.
All right, I'm just going to go ahead and let you know I agree with you guys on this one. Pinecrest is one of the many private schools that left the GHSA in the last few years. They had a few successful runs during their years, all the way from single A up to 3A, making it the quarters and semis on a couple of occasions. I'm not suggesting that the program is in the same position that they were in those years, but my suspicion is that depth is going to play a role in a matchup like this in favor of Pinecrest. Despite a really good fight that you'll get from the Lions, I do think it can be a competitive game, but at the end of the day, again, I'm going to take Pinecrest to win the football game. So we do not have a difference in our first pick. Now we're going to move over to 6A D1 and talk about the Model Blue Devils going to Haralson County. Ian, tell us about that theme song again, man.
It's tough out there on those county roads. And those are the roads that Model's going to have to travel to get to Haralson County. Look, we got to see this Haralson County team live and in person, coming into it, only one playoff win in their program history, but the support is there. They love their Rebels in Haralson County, and they've got some dudes. Their quarterback's a guy who can make plays with his legs and his arm. He's got a talented bunch of receivers. They've got some big guys up on the line of scrimmage. They've struggled with some consistency as far as scoring, which is very similar to what we're seeing from Model. Model plays really gritty defense, but they've struggled to score points and sustain success on the offensive side. So I think this is going to be a low-scoring, hard-hitting football game. Model has lost a few. I think they get off the schneid here. I think they find a way to win on the road, but I think this one's close.
I think this is going to be a close game, too, and you referenced the size that Haralson County has. Paxton Ray, their quarterback that you referenced, they got a good runner in Bodie Ostrowski, I believe is his last name, and then you got to deal with the environment, enthusiastic fan base, whatever, it goes on there at Haralson County, all that kind of stuff. It's a fun place to see a game.
Rebels take it to another level, apparently.
Model, I think they're going to keep it close, playing that solid defense. And originally, I was kind of leaning towards taking Haralson County in this game, but something tells me the Blue Devils are going to grind this one out and find some gritty way to get a win, because I think that's what a Jeff Honeycutt coach team finds a way to do. And not to mention that, they've got some great assistant coaches there. Obviously, we know Brent Bell, the offensive coordinator there. They're always going to have some wrinkles that you never know what's going to be coming, all that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be kind of a wild game, but at the end of the day, for some reason, I feel like the Blue Devils will come out on top. So I thought maybe we could have a difference there. We still may.
Yeah, we might. We might. The homer over here might go with the Rebs. I don't know.
Are you?
No.
Okay.
Right. And the reason I say this is, the Haralson, they're not. Contrary to popular belief, the past 2 years, they're not the worst football team in the world. They're still pretty good. We saw them hang with Darlington whenever Darlington went and played them. I didn't watch any of that game, so I had no clue what they were doing. I'm assuming running the ball. But they're not the worst team in the world just based on the eye test, and they've played some decently tough opponents. But Model, we've kind of owned them in region play whenever they came to us or whenever we went over there. So I don't think it's going to stop here. So give me Model to win this bowl game.
All right, so we all picked Model in this one. And by the way, you referenced series history. Model leads at 9-5 overall. They've won the last 2 in the series. So there you go. We all agree through 2 games. Let's pick another one. Let's talk about another team, the Blue Devils. The Bremen Blue Devils having a good year, 3-3 overall, 1-1 in region play. They're going down to Lindale for this one. The Pepperell Dragons are 0-6, 0-2. But Ian, Grayson, we all saw this Pepperell Dragons team this past week. That's the best 0-6 team I think I've ever seen. They've got a lot of talented kids on this team, and they keep fighting till the bitter end. Unfortunately, it seems like one of those years in games where you kind of need the ball to bounce your way here and there. That hasn't happened, but if they keep plugging and keep grinding, they're going to win some games. But this is going to be a tough one to, as you say, get off the schneid.
Yeah. I mean, look, seeing Pepperell play in person last week, they've got dudes. I mean, Matty Garcia had a great game. Sam Ross was lighting it up on offense and playing great at safety on defense. You got Sam Wooten, who's a heck of a linebacker and a great tight end. He had a big game with a couple of touchdowns and an interception. And they've got other guys too. They got the big backup running back, and I'm trying to remember the tight end's name, who also had a big game at defensive end. They've got guys. Wooten? And no, not Wooten. I can't. Bebo, I think. Yeah. No lack of talent here. How do they manage their emotions, to me, is the key in this game against Bremen. They're due for a win, and I think Bremen's beatable team. They're good, but they're not great. Dragons, baby. They scraped themselves off the mat. And you guys are in here going, man, we should have picked Pepperell next week. That's what I want to hear, especially from this one, since he just snickered.
Honestly, it won't shock me if they win the game after
Dragons.
what we saw this past week and what we know from the talent they have. But Grayson, you don't agree, do you?
I don't believe, and the reason I say this is, yes, Pepperell's probably one of the best 0-6 teams that we've ever seen, but we look at how they're losing these games. We look at it's every single game comes down to the ball not bouncing their way. And sometimes that happens, but it is what it is, and you're 0-6, and there's some things you're just going to have to move past. But now they run in to Bremen, and both teams are going to be hungry. I mean, they're coming off a loss, and, of course, Pepperell's coming off of 6 losses in a row. But Bremen, something just tells me they've been a powerhouse the past few years. I think they're just going to be too much. I think they're going to be too scrappy. And I think that Bremen, they're one of the top teams in the region and probably one of the top teams in the state now. I think they're going to go on the road, and I think they're going to beat Pepperell.
I'm going to agree with Grayson on this one, although I do, see why Ian pulled the trigger on pulling Pepperell in this one. Pepperell gets it at home. They're a very competitive team, got a lot of nice pieces. Once they connect all the dots, they can be dangerous. There's no question about that. But the thing that keeps going off in my head about this Bremen team is how hard-nosed that they are. And a lot of that comes from their head coach, Davis Russell, whose grandfather was Irk Russell, legendary Georgia defensive coach, and then also went on and had great success over at Georgia Southern. And that mentality that he brings to the table and the expectations that he has on his team. This is going to be a very well-coached team, a gritty team, very hard-nosed, as we mentioned. And I think that's going to be a tough task. I think they'll probably force a couple of turnovers, something like that. And we'll find a way to grind out a hard-fought win. But I will say this: I hope it turns out the other way. I really do. But I'm going to take Bremen to win the football game. So there you go.
Right,
we have a difference.
We do.
All right, let's move on to another game here, and we'll move into 7A D2 to pick this one. It's going to be the Mount Zion Eagles at 3-4, 0-1 in region play, taking on the number 8 team out of Single A Division II. That's the Tryon Bulldogs, 6-1. They lost their first region game of the season, playing against Manchester. Ran to a buzzsaw in that game. Certainly doesn't take away what Trine brings to the table in this game. They lead the series at 12-7. The last time they met was in 2021, and Trine won that game 61-28. As we mentioned, Trine lost to Manchester 34-7 last week. Cade Smith had a 11 of 24 passing day, 105 yards and a touchdown, according to Georgia High School Football Daily. The way I view this one is that, Mount Zion's a decent football team, but they are catching the Trine Bulldogs at the absolute worst moment that they possibly can. I think Trine wants to get that bad taste of losing last week out of their mouth. They're going to have they're always focused. They're going to have a higher level of focus for this one. And I just think they're going to take out some of their frustrations from last week on the Mount Zion Eagles, and will have no problem in this game. Do you agree with that?
Yeah. I think, coming off their first loss of the season on the road, coming back and playing in front of the fans at Sam Armuchee will energize this Trine Bulldogs team. And I just think they're the better football team, and they refocus here. Coach Patrick will have them ready to roll.
So we agree on that one. Let's see how Grayson feels about it on the other side.
He's taking Mount Zion. Look at him. He's already ready.
Yep, he's ready. Upset special coming now.
Absolutely not. No upset special today. One of the things that catches my eye about this region is just how spread out it is. I mean, you have Trine, Bowden, and Manchester, and one of the things that I looked at, Trine and Manchester are about 3 hours apart for a region game. And Mount Zion and Bowden and Trine. They're all about almost an hour away from each other. I mean, it's ridiculous. So location, how teams have to travel is one of the biggest aspects in this region. And Mount Zion gets it at Trine. And on top of that, I just think Trine's a better team. So give me Trine.
Okay. So we all agree on that one. Let's take another break. When we come back, we'll move into 7-4A. Also spend a little time in 5-5A as well. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, and we're glad to be with you today, and we'll be back.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection, or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. I am Grayson Atkins here with Ian Griffin and Matt Davis, and we're going to go ahead and run through some more football games. And right now, we know for sure that we're going to go through three of these: Cartersville at Cass, Cedartown at Hiram, and Rome at Villa Rica. And we're going to start out with the Purple Hurricanes going across Cartersville to go to the Doug to play the Cass Colonels. And this one earlier in the season, we could say that this had game of the week potential, maybe even game of the year potential.
Can't argue with that.
You certainly can't. But one of the things that now ties into this is the elephant in the room. Cass's quarterback is out for the rest of the season. The number one quarterback for the class of 2026 in Georgia is completely out of this game, and now they have to go to Elijah Slocum as the backup quarterback. And Cass, they still have some guys up front, Bear McWhorter, Cale Ellis, Caden Ellis. They still have a lot of those guys. But when you take away a guy like Brody McWhorter, and they still have a run game. I mean, they have Braylon Hill, who is as explosive a runner as I've ever seen. He's a whole lot to handle. I got to see him face first there whenever we played them at Cass. But their defense can certainly keep them in the game. But I just think Cartersville, they're just going to be too much. I mean, that defense is loaded. They're top 10 in the state for points allowed in a game, and it's at around 9-ish points per game. And they still have a lot of the great offensive play. They have great wide receivers. I just think they're going to be too much. Give me Cartersville.
Ian.
Look, you mentioned Cass still has great players, but when you take McWhorter out of the situation of the equation, then teams are able to key on that run game. They don't have to worry about getting beat over the top, which they had when McWhorter was still in the game. He is not. This game is at the Doug. That's an advantage, but I just don't think Cass will be able to score enough points. Cartersville doesn't give up many anyway, but I think Cartersville will stack the box, take away that run game, and Cass's defense will keep it close for a little while, but they're on the field too long, and eventually the Canes wear them down.
I'm going to agree with you guys on this one. Cartersville leads the series 45-5. The quarterback, Elijah Slocum, he's holding his own. He had 184 yards, 3 touchdowns rushing this past week. That was against Woodland of Cartersville, and they're a team that have struggled. He did pass for over 100 yards and a couple of touchdowns, but it's going to take a lot more to beat this Cartersville team. And one of the things that just really jumps off the page about this Cartersville team is just how explosive they can be on the offensive side of the ball, because they've got some unbelievably fast and athletic receivers, and then, as you guys have referenced, a really good defense to boot. This is an extremely athletic and deep bunch, and they're going to be ready for this game. So I think Cartersville will win it pretty handedly. So we all agree on that one. And the other thing that I also agree with you guys on that one, it's unfortunate that it's not going to necessarily turn out to be the matchup that everybody was hoping for at the beginning of the year. Certainly feel for, Brody McWhorter and his team, and they're going to get out there, and they've had a few weeks to kind of deal with this and try to get refocused and that kind of stuff. But they're going up against a really tough team, so I think it's going to be a tough night. Anyway, that's enough about that one. We'll move on to the next one. This one is a really, really interesting matchup. It's the number 7 team in the state in 4A, Cedartown Bulldogs, perfect record, 6-0, 2-0 in region play, taking on a really, really good Hiram Hornets, 3-3 team, 2-0 in region play. Series history-wise, tied at 2 games apiece. Hiram's won the last 2. They have not played since 2015. I'm really glad this one's back on the schedule this year, because I think the way these two teams have played much of the season, this one's got some potential to be a pretty exciting game. Do you think that will turn out to be the case, Ian?
I do. I actually do. Cedartown's going to have to travel to Hiram for this game. You look at Hiram's record, if you're not paying close attention to it, the record may not wow you, but if you look at their non-region schedule, they just played an absolute meat grinder. And have been hot ever since. They scored the win over Cass. Now, that was the game where we were talking about Brody McWhorter. That's the game where he injured his leg, and it was a different game after he exited. Hiram was able to come back and win that one by a couple of scores. But this is a really, really good Hiram team. Cedartown's going to come in and try to do what they do. Run the ball down your throat and shut you down on defense. If they can do that, that's a great recipe to go on the road and win. But Hiram always has a few wrinkles, and I think this one's close. But I do think Cedartown will be able to get more stops, and they'll get that running game going and find a way to win.
I agree with you. I think Cedartown's going to win this game. But one of the things that jumps off the page to me is Cedartown has played one ranked opponent, that was Rockmart in week 1. But otherwise, they've taken care of business by winning by an average of 32 points a game. But I think this is the best team that they've played throughout the regular season, personally. I think it has potential for that. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond when they have some adversity thrown at them that they really haven't had much of the season. So I'm curious to see how that goes. But at the end of the day, I think this is a well-oiled machine, and they'll be ready for it. There might be some ups and downs throughout the game, but at the end of the day, I kind of expect that Cedartown's going to find a way to grind one out.
And if they do, the table is being set for an absolute showdown between them and Cartersville.
Wow.
That one should be a game of the week, depending on when it lands. But.
All right, Ian and I both picked Cedartown. Do you have a different take on this one?
I think that Cedartown is rolling way, way, way too hard to stop now. And I just think they're going to be too much. They're going to be too big. They're going to shove the ball right down Hiram's throat. So I'm going to take the Dogs.
He seems a little more confident than we are.
Yeah, I mean,
I think this is.
I think it's going to be
close.
interesting.
Yeah,
I really do.
Yeah.
That I couldn't pull the trigger on Hiram, but if something happens over the course of this game and we look up and they end up pulling the upset, it won't shock me.
Getting to know their coach. I mean, it's they're going
to have some wrinkles in this one.
They'll be ready.
I also said go Dogs. I had to hide the elephant. I
noticed
can't
it,
see that
trust
thing
me.
anymore.
Yeah, the elephant in the room has been tucked behind the northbound. What was it we say? The south end of the northbound
That's
horse.
right. That's right.
I didn't even hide the yellow jacket. I just wanted the elephant out of my face.
Maybe he went to Dreamland to get him some ribs. Who knows,
Maybe so.
Yeah.
But
Perhaps.
I'm going to move him to the other side of the table in a minute because you did that. So we'll see.
for it.
But all right, let's see. Let's pick one more and then we'll take a break. Nah, let's just keep picking them. We're going to pick a few more and then we'll take a break and we'll have our game of the week because we're kind of burning through our time here on the program. So we'll just keep it going and talk about 5A. We're going to talk about the Rome Wolves, number 10 in the state in 5A football, going on the road to Villa Rica to take on the Wildcats. Ian Rome is 2-2 and then 2-0 in region. Villa Rica's 4-2 and 3-0 in region. Rome leads the series 6-2. The Wolves have won the last 5 in the series. So since Coach Reed's been at Rome, they've never lost to Villa Rica. So in some respects, it looks like maybe this could be one of the tougher region tests for Rome. Do you think that's true?
Yeah, I do. It's a road game, so you've got to get your guys ready to try. It's not a long trip, but you got to take a short little drive up 278, where they'll take on the Wildcats, and the Wildcats are going to have plenty of confidence going into this game. They've taken care of business so far this season, so Rome needs to be firing on all cylinders when they get there, especially early in the game. You don't want to go on the road and fall behind. I think they're going to be able to do just that. I think they've found a rhythm on offense, and the defense is absolutely shutting teams down. So I think Rome goes on the road, gets the win, but I think this is a great measuring stick game for Rome. This is definitely the toughest game they've had since Carrollton.
And when you look on Villa Rica's side, this is going to be one of the toughest, if not toughest, team that they've seen this year. Because when you look under the hood at their season record, their losses are against teams with winning records, and then on the other side of that, all their wins are against teams that have losing records this year. And when I look at this, I think Rome will be the most talented and deep team that they've faced this year. So may stay close for a little while, but I look for at some point in this game to Rome to come up some big plays and pull away in this one. So I'm going to take Rome to win it, and then we'll see how Grayson feels about this one.
I think that Rome's out of region schedule has prepared them completely for what is to come. And I think that this may be one of the toughest teams in the region that they have to face. But they're just so battle-tested. They've already faced adversity throughout the season. I mean, I just think that since they've already faced a lot of the problems that they could already face, all the uncertainties, everything that you could possibly imagine bad has happened to Rome this season. I think they're rolling right now. They're not gonna stop in region play. Give me Rome to go on the road and beat Villa Rica.
All right, so we all agree on this one. So we've only really had the one difference. Is that right?
That's right.
All right, let's move into 7AD1. And we're going to start with the Chattooga Indians, who took their first loss of the season last week up at Gordon Lee. They're 5-1 and 2-1 in region play. They're taking on the number 4 team in Single A Division I, the Fountain County Rebels, who are perfect right now at 6-0 and 3-0. Series history-wise, Chattooga leads at 4-2. However, Fannin has won the last 2. Very big in 2020 and 2021. The other 4 games in the series were back in the good old 1970s. So not a lot of recent action here in this series or in this series overall because of where they're geographically located. So, tough game for Chattooga last week. Kind of came back to earth a little bit. That Gordon Lee team must be really good.
Yeah, they really must be.
But, Ian, do you want to start with this one?
Sure. I'm not going to waste a lot of time on it either. Fannon's on fire, man. This is a Rebels team I wouldn't want to play right now. And I think Chattooga's going to go do what they do and lean on Zayden Cook. And if they can get him going, perhaps they'll have a chance to hang around in this ball game. But I really think Fannin will win this by a couple of scores.
I'm going to agree with you on this one. When you look at the numbers alone for Fannin, they're averaging about 40 points a game. They give up about 8. They've pitched 2 shutouts. They've had 3 other games where they held teams to 7 points or less. This is a team that's just clicking on both sides of the ball. They beat Gordon Central 38-6, a much improved Gordon Central, we should add. They had 619 total yards in the game. I think that Chautauqua is going to have a hard time keeping up, and I do think that Fannin is going to have the ability on defense to slow down that Chautauqua running game enough. So I think this will be, I hate to admit, I think it might be a little lopsided by the end of the night, but we'll see. Definitely, still impressed a lot by what Chautauqua's been able to accomplish this season. They still got some good football left in them, but this is number 4 team in the state for a reason. And I think in this case that Chautauqua runs into a buzzsaw. All right, let's go over to Grayson.
I mean, for Chautauqua, if you want to make it an interesting game, all you got to do, give the ball to Zayden Cook and let him run free. But now, and I mentioned this last week, Gordon Lee has they already had one of the best D-lines that Chautauqua was going to face. That they're physical, they're big. A lot of their guys have offers. I mentioned one of their dudes. He had, I wasn't even here last week, so I remember just putting on the notes. But they have guys that have D1 offers all over the D-line, some in the receiving core, and now they run into Fannin County, who's been one of the more consistent teams in Northwest Georgia over the past few years. So I just think that Lawson Sullivan and company, especially because they get this one at home, and Fannin gets pretty rowdy. So I'm going to have to take the Rebels in this one.
All right. So we all agree on that one. We're going to pick one more game before we take our last break and get ready for our game of the week. And this one could be a good one, too. This is Christian Heritage. The Lions are going to Gordon Central to take on the Warriors. Christian Heritage leads the series 2-0. They have not played each other since 2019. And the thing about Christian Heritage is, as we've talked about him for the last couple of years, Carter Triplett, their quarterback, dual-threat guy. He's a big kid. He can run. He's got a good arm. I noticed in the Georgia High School Football Daily that last week, wide receiver Aiden Pace had 7 catches for 137 yards, 3 touchdowns. So he's got some guys that he can get the ball to now. They're very well coached. Frank Barden has done a tremendous job getting this team turned around and headed in the right direction. They got some good pieces there. So I think that is going to spell some problems for Gordon Central. Gordon Central, a much improved team, but I think Christian Heritage is going to be too much, even having to play this game on the road.
You just said everything that I had on my list to talk about there. I have nothing to add. I'm taking Christian Heritage.
Yeah, I have nothing to add. Christian Heritage.
Okay, so we all agree on that one, and that's the last game we're going to pick. But, Ian, we're going to take a break, but tell us what we've got coming up when we come back.
Yeah, when we come back, we are going to hear from both coaches of the Coosa Eagles and Armuchee Indians. That's Eric Belew of Armuchee and Geoff Cannon of the Coosa Eagles that will be giving us their thoughts on a huge cross-county rivalry that's going down out in Armuchee on Friday night.
Sounds good. So we'll take a break. We'll come back with those interviews and more. And this is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, Week 8 edition. We'll be back.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
Back in, everybody, to this episode of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Hard to believe it is Week 8 of the program, and we're very excited to jump back into our conversation here, but with a special guest. We've got the head coach of the Coosa Eagles, Geoff Cannon, with us. Big rivalry matchup coming up this weekend out at Armuchee, and we're excited to talk about it. But first of all, Coach, thanks for giving us some time today. We're excited to talk to you.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right, you guys have 6 games under your belt now at this point. There have been some ups and downs over the course of the season, 2-4 overall right now. The first 3 region opponents have all been really super tough teams, Coach. I know your goal is to get better every single day. In what ways have you seen this group grow the most over the course of the last 6 games?
Well, when you're trying to establish a new culture and build a program, you're really looking at non-scoreboard related things. And over the course of the last 3 weeks, been pretty tough and on the scoreboard. But the progress that I've seen that we've made in practice and the way that we've been able to grow and keep our composure on the sidelines when things aren't going quite our way, we've shown a great deal in the last couple of weeks of a great deal of growth and maturity in those areas. And, as far as what we're trying to do here, the long-range plan, I feel like we're right on schedule with those kinds of things.
Excellent, Coach. Well, what do you see as the biggest areas your team needs to improve on the field to get the results that you're looking to achieve as far as wins and losses?
Sure. Yeah. Well, offensively, we need to protect the football. We've been turning it over way too much and cut down on major penalties. So we've been driving the football all over the place from 20 to 20, and after big plays or as big plays are ending, turn the ball over, or get a big first down on a 3rd and long and get a 10 or 15-yard penalty, bringing it back and just drive killer type things. And then defensively, we're really looking to just our relentless pursuit of the football. Are we just really, really, really hungry and really, really tracking that football and try to make tackles? When we're one-on-one in space, with an athlete that's better than us, that's tough for us to make. But if that one athlete, he can't make 6 or 7 of us miss, can he? So we want to be able to get to that football as fast as we can and gang tackle and help our teammates. And really, when it comes to just X's and O's on the whiteboard, defensively, we just need to get lined up right. If we can get the strength called correctly and get lined up correctly, we feel we can just stay in our base defense and try to put a good product on the field defensively on Friday nights.
Coach Cannon, head coach of the Coosa Eagles, with us. This game is a road game for you, Coach, but one of the things that has been fun to see as a local football fan is the spike of enthusiasm that the Coosa fan base have displayed this season. So how would you describe the atmosphere of your games and the fan support that you've seen so far, being somebody that's new to this community and what you've seen out at Coosa?
Sure. If and this kind of just follows me, so I don't know if I'm snake bit or what, but if we could get I thought I'd left the hurricane stuff behind, but if I could get a home game, where it doesn't pour rain all day, or we hadn't been out of school because of a hurricane, that would be outstanding. We had homecoming pretty early against Ridgeland, and it was an outstanding atmosphere. It was a lot of fun. We put a good product on the field, and we were able to stand tall for our Coosa community here. And man, it just doesn't get any better than that. And right now our crew will travel. And I know this is another good thing is, I'm used to getting on a bus, for 2 hours one way to play a region game. This is a 20-minute bus ride. And so I'm hoping, since we're staying local and the weather should be beautiful, I'm hoping we do have a good crowd. I know that I'll tell you this though, our kids absolutely 100% know when we've got people in the stands cheering for them. They absolutely do. It's something they pay attention to, and it can only mean good things for us in the future.
Well, you're talking about your kids, so that's a great segue into this next question. I want to give you an opportunity to brag on some of your guys. Who are some of your leaders so far this season? Any guys that you'd like to mention that have stepped up beyond your expectations? Obviously, we knew guys like Harrison East were going to be marquee players for you, but who's jumped off the page and really stepped up for you this year?
Oh, really? We've got 2 seniors that haven't played football since the 8th grade that are contributing at a high level, one on offense and one on defense. And on offense, it's Reese Fuller. And and even just yesterday, and the day before that in practice, the kid doesn't come off the field. So if we're trying to give our defense a good look, he's going to be at receiver, a scout team, running great routes, blocking hard, and being real physical. And I got to tell you, I really do appreciate that. He's been able to handle the football pretty well, and have a handful, number of receptions and some decent yards. We have been spreading the ball around a good deal. The first 3 or 4 games of the season, we had 8. Each game we had 8 different receivers catch a pass, which is, that's the old Mike Leach balance there, I guess, right? You just got to get it to different people, whether you're going to run it or throw it to them. But Reese has got an opportunity. I think he's up around 15, 20 receptions, which is really good for us considering how we do spread it around. And on the defensive side of the ball, it's DJ Johnson, who's a newcomer to the football program, has just been playing great. He's got a great motor. We've got him at outside linebacker, so there's he can just hold down one side. But I really like the way that he plays, and both of them take coaching. And for not having played football in a while, and for those two guys to be contributing at the level that they are, it's just really impressive. And another guy on defense that I feel like is doing the same thing. Has been a part of the program. This is his first year really starting varsity football as a senior, named Mason Brownlow. And all of our coaching staff are just really high on him. He's a really good vocal leader. There's all types, of leaders, especially on a high school sports team. He's a really good vocal leader, encouraging kids. And right now, this week, he's tasked with getting us lined up. So we'll see how he does. I'm sure he's going to do a good job. But we've been really proud about the way he's played. And I know you can't, you always got to talk about Jashawn Turner, high character, quality kid at running back, 1,000-yard rusher from last year, just about on pace. We hope if everything stays true, he could compete and do that again this fall. And so it's when we're giving him the ball 18 to 22 times a game, things are looking pretty good.
Well, Coach, like your Eagles, the Indians are a squad that do not quit, continue to battle each week, so there's no doubt they're going to give their best shot in this local rivalry game. So what can you tell us about the Indians and the things that you see that they do well that you think will present some challenges for you coming up this weekend?
Well, all right. So on the offensive side of the ball for them, they just get in a lot of formations. They like to get in empty some and run their quarterback a whole lot, and again, we're, going into Game 7 here, and just like everybody else in Single A Division I, where depth is always going to be an issue. Well, when you start getting into this part of the season, playing the physical teams that we've both played, Fannin and Christian Heritage, for us, and Gordon Lee and Chattooga for them. Those are all real, physical football games. So you just wonder, just how banged up everybody is right now. And is it going to be the backup? Is it going to be the, who out there personnel wise, and, I know that their quarterback is a really good player. I mean, heck, they attempted 38 passes against Dade County Friday night. Now I think 2 of those situations were, kind of 2-minute kind of situations where you got to move the ball fast. One was towards the end of the game, so about every play was a pass play, but still that's a lot, out of 60-something snaps. So we've got to make sure that we're getting pressure on him and covering these receivers. And then, then they'll get under center. They'll get in the Maryland eye, 2 tight Maryland eye and some short yardage stuff. They'll get in a single wing with some short yardage stuff. And, we just don't know what we're going to see, I guess, really, when it comes to personnel. They had a good running back, number 24, a good player. He starts at outside linebacker for him too. Barely comes off the field to get a break. But, at this point, in these big region games, your best players got to play. And if that means they got to play on both sides, that's what it means. Defensively, their defensive line does a real good job slanting and getting penetration. We got to be able to get them blocked. We've got to protect our quarterback and open some holes in the run game. Their quarterback turns over and plays safety too, so he's going to be out there running around chasing the football. So we got to make sure we got to have him accounted for in the run game because he likes to spin down in the box and he can make tackles at the line of scrimmage, which is really good for safety. So that's really what we're looking at.
Excellent. Well, Coach, this is your first season at the helm at Coosa, but you right out of the gate, you've been learning the lay of the land as far as local football is concerned here in Northwest Georgia. This is the second and last matchup you'll have during the regular season against another Floyd County team. So, as someone that is new to the area, what does it mean to you to coach in an in-county matchup and in an environment like this, going on the road to play a rival like Armuchee?
Yeah. Right. So when we went to model early in the season for a non-region matchup, it was really just one of the most fun football games I've ever been involved in. And we came up short. I thought our kids played great and played really hard. And here's the thing. And then when we scrimmaged Pepperell out here in August before the season started, it was kind of the same thing. I thought our kids really rose to the occasion and played lights out. And from what I understand, what people are telling me, is that, you don't have to really get our kids fired up to play, one of these local Floyd County schools. And that's how it should be. They know these kids. They're friends with them. They probably played, rec sports together or, have known each other for years and years. And that's what makes these kinds of things really fun. So I'm hoping I can, look my kids in the eye, Friday before kickoff and see that they're hungry and ready to go compete at a high level.
Excellent. Well, Coach, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. Good luck Friday night and the rest of the season.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Go Eagles.
That's going to put a wrap on this segment. That is Coach Cannon of the Coosa Eagles, and we will take a break, hear a word from Riverside Auto Group, and be back on this episode of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. It's time for us to talk about our featured game of the week, and that is between Armuchee and Coosa. And we have the good fortune to have Coach Eric Belew of the Armuchee Indians on the line. How are you, Coach?
Doing good, man. I appreciate y'all having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Looking forward to dissecting this matchup. And, Coach, we'll jump right in to our questions. It's year 2 for you at Armuchee. You guys have started fast in both of your first 2 seasons. Instilling a winning culture takes time, but would love to hear more about the community Armuchee and how that process is going as your guys are buying in and we're seeing more wins pile up for the Indians.
Yeah, I think just, familiarity has been huge for us. For the most part, our staff stayed intact for the past 2 years. The same lingo and same verbiage and everything, just being able to use that for the past 2 years. And just having the same expectations. I feel like our kids, it being the second year of the staff, have really invested and bought into what we're trying to accomplish. They've done a really good job. We ask a lot out of our kids, and they give us a lot. They're really fun and easy to coach, and it's just a blast, having this opportunity to be around these kids and these coaches.
Coach Eric Belew with us on Armuchee Indians. You guys have gone up against some tough competition the last few weeks, managed to hang tough with a really gritty Dade County team last week. So how have those losses over the last few weeks helped your team grow?
Well, I think, defensively, you take 2 possessions out. I thought we played a pretty good football game on that side of the ball. I feel like we got a whole lot better last week, battling some injuries and asking some kids to can move around, and when you kind of move kids around, sometimes you get lucky and you find a bright spot. I feel like we did that with 2 or 3 kids, that they can help us in different areas than we had thought. And then on the offensive side of the ball, we're just going to take advantage of the opportunities when they're there. As a coach, I've got to do a better job of, putting kids in positions to make plays and score points. So that's kind of what we've worked on this week, trying to be a little more creative and how we can kind of expand on what we've already, done so far on the offensive side of the ball. So we feel like if we can build, continue to get better, on that side of the ball and build off our performance on defense, last week, we've got a chance to be successful this year.
Well, Coach, we talked with you leading into the season, and you identified some of the players that you expected to be leaders. Talk to us about some of the kids who have stepped up, and when the opportunity has come and you've had to call their number. Who are some of the guys that you've really leaned on and been impressed with from both their play on the field and a leadership standpoint?
Blaine Ragland's done a great job at quarterback and safety for us. He's also our punter that's averaging over 40 yards a punt. Also our punt returner. I mean, he's just kind of a Swiss Army knife. He's done a great job leading our program. William Pessel's been our leading receiver. Also plays safety on the defensive side of the ball. He's done a great job. And you have Jackson Hightower and Hayden Phillips that, they've just got so many games underneath their belt. They're both 4-year starters. We're just really excited about what they bring to the table and their experience. And just collectively as a whole, we're really excited about just everybody kind of buying in. We've also got 2 newcomers, Colton McBurnett and Trenton Cothran. This is their first year playing football in high school, and they're both seniors. And they've really come along, the past couple of weeks. You can tell that the game's starting to slow down for them a little bit. Just their height and their athletic ability has done wonders for us on both sides of the ball.
Well, Coach, you play in a really tough region. You're a couple of games into region play. Now, talk about the challenges this region presents and how you're preparing your team each week for these tough games.
Yeah, I mean, you can just tell that this region's full of talent and full of really good coaching. So, that's one of the things that we've got to do. We got to make sure that, we do our best to not get out-coached on Friday night so we can stay out of our kids' way and let them make plays. There's really not, in this region, there's not a down week. There's not a week where you can kind of circle, and say, hey, we feel like we've got this game, handled. It's one of those regions where, you're going to be playing some really, really good football teams every single week. And you have to be, prepared to play every Friday. You can't look ahead. So, we're really excited about this challenge on Friday, and then we're also really excited about getting a bye week next week as well, just to kind of get our feet back underneath us. And then, getting a chance to, possibly, make the playoffs, finishing these last 3 games strong after the bye week. And, but it's just, like I said, you certainly can't look ahead by any means because of the talent that's ahead of us.
Coach, you mentioned being excited about this matchup, so let's dive into that. That's a good segue to our next question. Coosa, cross-county rival. This one's obviously a big one for you guys, but also for the fans. A lot of excitement in the community. One of the reasons why we chose this for our game of the week this week. What are your impressions of this Eagles team, and who are some of the players that really jump out at you when you're watching film preparing for this game?
Yeah, you can tell that they play extremely hard. They're probably as similar to us schematically on both sides of the ball as anybody else we've really faced. Just when it comes to the type of scheme that they do on defense, we have the same front for the most part. They do some things a little bit different. Same thing on the offensive side of the ball. They're not as similar to us on defense, but they do some things that we try to accomplish on offense as well. So, some familiarity we feel like is going to be beneficial to both of us. You feeling like your scout team can give you a good look because you're doing what they would normally do anyways. But it's just one of those deals where, they've got kids kind of all over. They got a lot of speed and a lot of athleticism, especially on the back end. They got a linebacker, number 5. That's a great player, extremely physical. I believe his name's Harrison East. He does a great job on both sides of the ball. They got 2 quarterbacks that can hurt you. Both of them, can extend plays. That's probably what's been the most impactful component of their offense is when, something breaks down. They have the guys that have the ability to make somebody miss and extend a play and kind of make something out of nothing. So that's something that we've tried to simulate this week, but it's very difficult to do when you have somebody like they got that can do it really, really well.
Well, excellent, Coach. We talked earlier a little bit about the program you're building, and I had an opportunity to talk to you in the preseason. You talked about the support that you have from this Armuchee community, the facility upgrades. There's obviously investment in the program. What does it mean, and how much of a factor will we to have this game at home, a rivalry game? The Coosa fans are going to make the trip cross county and pack the visiting stands. But talk about the advantage that you have and the support that you have from the Armuchee fan base.
Yeah, I think, all the upgrades and stuff, I think it's just symbolic on, what this community deserves. It's been long overdue, and the community, how much they invest into our students and athletes, they deserve to have these type of experiences on Friday. And I know Coosa's gone through something extremely similar. They were kind of on the same construction timeline as us when it comes to facility upgrades, and I know that their community feels the same way. They deserve to have, those facility upgrades as well. So, but the fact that it's going to be home for us, we're really, really excited about it. We had talked about, there's really it was tough to plan homecoming because every team's just so tough. It's one of those deals where, you just have to pick whenever you think the weather's going to be the best. And we think that's going to be this Friday. We're really excited about, compared to what was going on last weekend with kind of all the devastation, and, thoughts and prayers are going out to all those that were affected by the hurricane last week and tropical storms. But, we feel like Friday is going to be the perfect recipe just for a great, high school football atmosphere. Two great communities coming together, and we're going to do the best we can to come out on top.
Excellent. Well, Coach, we really, really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today. We're excited about the matchup on Friday night and wish you the best of luck.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
That's going to put a wrap on our conversation with Coach Eric Belew. And in this part of the segment, we're glad you're with us. This is This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. Back with more after a word from our sponsor.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection, or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
Oh, boy. We got a little bit of a war going on with Big Al here. If you can't see our little props here, he just put him behind the horse's rear end over there. But, yeah, we're glad you're with us. We get ready to wind down our Week 8 edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. And this is a tough one to call here. We're going to pick our game of the week. Coosa Eagles going out to H.A. Lindsey Stadium, take on the Armuchee Indians. And I'm going to put the pressure on some other folks here. Let's start with Ian.
Tough ball game here. Two teams that have played some classics between each other. This one has the makings of another. I think it's going to come down to the wire, but I'm going to go with my gut. I like the home team to squeeze it out. Armuchee.
Okay, let's go over to the other side of the table here and see how Grayson sees it.
Come on. Sorry.
A is for Armuchee, right?
A is for Armuchee, but I'm going to have to take there's no C over here. Dang it. I just think that Coosa, they're a little bit more battle-tested. They've already played Christian Heritage and Fannin, so I think they've played a tough out-of-region schedule, so I think they're going to be prepared for what Armuchee has to bring. So there's no C over here on this panel, but yeah, give me the Eagles.
Okay. I'm going to agree with Grayson on this one. I think it's going to be an extremely close game. I think it's going to be an exciting game, good environment. If you don't already have a game selected to go to this weekend, if your team is off or whatever the case may be, get out and support these kids and create that Friday night atmosphere and environment that they deserve. Super excited about it. But at the end of the day, I'm going to go with Coosa in this game. Both coaches referenced a lot of key guys here in this game. Of course, you got a couple good quarterbacks out there at Coosa. You've got Harrison East, who can wreak all kinds of havoc. Jason Turner running the football. I just think they'll make a few extra plays there in the game, and Coosa will win. But with that said, I'm not trying to cop out when I say I could see this one going either way. So we'll see what happens. You can flip a coin on that one if you ask me.
Yeah, that tough ball game.
Yeah.
All right, 2 differences.
Yeah. So that's any final comments from anybody as we get ready to wind down?
That's going to be a great week of high school football. Excited for it.
It sure is. Well, I hope everybody enjoyed the show today. We appreciate you tuning in. Good luck to your team. That puts a wrap on this edition. Let me get that camera up there for you so you can get the close up of Big Al.
He's just waving at Grayson. That's all. Just saying thanks for coming to Tuscaloosa last weekend.
And there you go.
Yeah.
Come again. Yeah. All right. Puts a wrap on this edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football. I hope you have a great weekend, everybody. We appreciate you. Bye.
This has been another edition of This Week in Northwest Georgia Football, brought to you by Riverside Auto Group and produced by WLAQ Sports. We appreciate you tuning in and invite you to tune in again next week. Please like, share, and subscribe.